Okay, so now we can begin.
Okay.
Welcome to Hypnosis in Action. My name is Stephen Anderson, and I have with me today a sensational lady by the name of Maureen Hamilton. Now, Maureen, you are the first hypnotist that I've interviewed on, I think, any of my shows.
Well, I feel honoured.
And because generally, I look at it and there's a heap of podcasts out there interviewing hypnotists. I have a belief that we are hypnotizing ourselves every day.
Absolutely.
And that most of us are doing it the wrong way. So I just go looking for interesting and successful people that have done what they want to do and are in a place that they want to be, and talk to them to see what it is you do that puts you in that sort of a place. Okay.
Right.
Step or question number one, okay, is has the direction or the path that you have taken followed the same path as you've travelled through life?
Yes, it has. In a way, when I was 7, I was in hospital and I had a blood poisoning. You know, today's we call it septicemia, but I was a very sick little girl. And I think the thing that really stood out to me is that those nurses, well, they had to give me fourth hour injections, and it was so painful, but they were just so caring and didn't want to hurt me, but they had no choice, you know.
Yep.
But they were so loving and so caring in the way they treated me, and I thought, that's what I want to do. All my life I wanted to help other people, and nursing, of course, was my prime objective, even though over the years I had a lot of challenges in trying to become a nurse. I was rejected by one hospital because they didn't think I'd be able to do it, and then eventually managed to get into St Vincent's, and they said, well, if you've got the determination, we'll put you on.
Okay. Why did they say they didn't think you wouldn't be able to do it?
Well, I was diagnosed with rickets when I was young,
Okay.
and that's bone weaknesses.
Yes.
And then I had a curvature of the spine. I had deformities with my knees, my ankles, and requiring surgery. So I ended up having operations. I had it at the Mater in Sydney, one of the operations, or two really. I put staples in both knees to try and straighten the knees. And then 3 months later I had to have them out. The biggest challenge there was an SDA hospital, and I couldn't eat meat, and coming off a farm, that was a terrible thing.
Hang on, say that again. It was a...
It was an SDA hospital,
Right.
Seventh-day Adventist, where they don't eat meat.
Oh, right, okay.
Remember my uncle coming in
Farm
one
girl
day?
wouldn't have liked that at all.
Remember my uncle coming in one day with some hot chicken, and they said, would you please take that, it'll make everybody else sick. It was hilarious.
Oh, no.
But anyway, it was a very, very painful operation, shocking. But anyway, so that's fun. And then...
So how old were you when you...
probably about 13, 14.
Okay.
Was the first one. And then they said to me, well, Maureen, everybody knew that I wanted to be a nurse. They said, well, when you're ready to be a nurse, you come back here. I went back, and another one who said, no, you wouldn't make it.
Right, okay.
And not being deterred, I decided to try St Vincent's, and my father wasn't happy about that because his mother had died in St Vincent's, and they weren't exactly, the nurse who was looking after him was actually quite cruel. And he said, don't you dare go to St Vincent's. And in the end, I had no choice, and he said, okay. And funnily enough, he ended up in hospital in St Vincent's himself years later, and he said it was really lovely.
Yeah, it's amazing how one thing in our life can
That's
really,
right. Yeah.
one thing can make us decide and make us live a certain way.
That's right, that's right. So that was the reason I was rejected, and then went through St Vincent's, did my training at St Vincent's.
Can we go back to the troubles you had with your leg and the curvature of your spine? They were obviously bad enough to put you into hospital for operation after operation.
Yeah.
So nursing is a very heavy trade.
Oh,
you know,
mate,
you've got a lot of lifting and stuff to do. The staples went in, they came out.
They came out 3 months later.
Yep.
And then about 12 months after that, I had to have an operation on my left ankle.
Right.
And because of deformity happening there, so they did a bone graft on that. They removed quite a bit of the bone on the instep, and then took some bone from the shin and put it down on the ankle. And then, strangely enough, about 20 years ago, I decided I don't have much flexibility in that left ankle, and I wanted to see if I could get it back. So I remember going into an orthopaedic specialist and saying, look, can we do this? And he said, yeah, we will try. But anyway, they x-rayed and they discovered that there is actually like a staple between my two of my toes and my left foot. So it would be very difficult to make it happen. At St Vincent's I tried that too, and they actually stuck my foot in a bucket of ice cold water to try and unfreeze it. Didn't work. So it's always been like that. But, you know, you work around it. When I was doing my training, that was a bit of a challenge though.
I bet it was. So how much of a challenge was it as you grew up? Because one of my saddest, I think, memories is of me in grade 3 and in a country town, starting in a new school. Yep. And the kids actually came up to the new kid and said, do you want to be my friend? You know? And there was one young fellow who I'm guessing had polio. He had the calipers on his legs, and was a sickly kid. And when he came up and asked me that question, I said no. And this haunts me to today.
Wow.
So if you were in that situation where you were seen as the sickly child, how was your school years?
I was bullied. Not so much at primary school, but probably more at second. I remember one girl came up to me one day, she just walked past me, and she had those spiked shoes, the running shoes. She just whacked me across the backside with it, and I had these 8 bumps on my back. It really hurt. But I guess one of the other things there, I hadn't mentioned the fact that I was in plaster for 12 months in a boarding school, and it was full body plaster from top to the hips. And so I would have to take it off each night so I could sleep. And where do I put a great big plaster like that? So I used to hide it under the chair in the bathroom. I got teased unmercifully about that plaster cast, and that wasn't pleasant. But you know, you sort of weather the storm. And a lot of people say to me when they come in and they've got emotional problems, and they say, "Oh, it was a pretty normal life." And I'd say, well, Mum, it's a pretty normal life too. But when you look back and when you mentioned that, because you sort of just keep moving on, and you think to yourself, well, really, there were a few things that went on in your life that were hurtful. Yeah, you just keep getting on.
But you just keep getting on. Yeah.
So when I was nursing, obviously my left foot particularly used to swell a lot, even after when I started, and you know, so I used to live in the nurses' home, and so we'd get a 3/4 of an hour lunch break. So I'd race to the dining room quickly and have my lunch, and then I'd race really, really quickly across the road to the nurses' home, and I had extra pillows in the room. So then what I would do is I would prop the feet up on the pillows so I could try and get the swelling down so I could do the afternoon shift. And so any time I had a half hour, I'd race home and put my feet up on the pillows so I could keep working. And I worked out well. Sort of got there in the end. So that was good.
How long did you nurse for?
Well, general nursing in Sydney with St Vincent's was 4 years. And then I went to Hobart and did my midwifery upstairs. And then after that, I went back to my hometown, Canowindra, and Canowindra in New South Wales, between Orange and Cara. And I worked there at the hospital, doing work there. I must have done some work there too before I went and did my midwifery, because I can remember seeing that first baby being born, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is an absolute miracle, how beautiful. It was such an exciting time, and I just loved going and doing midwifery. It was probably the best part of my nursing years. And then I met my husband in Hobart, and so I came back. That's where I did my midwifery, and then I came back and then I nursed at the country hospital again for a little while. And then my husband and I got married, and then we moved down to Goulburn, and that's where I did my psychiatric nursing, down in Goulburn. Okay. So it was interesting. And yeah, so that sort of tied in really nicely. And I remember having to go down to Sydney to do, you know, the block studies. So I was down there for a month, leaving the family at home. That was a bit of a challenge. Because at that stage I think I had 2 children. That's right, it was 2 children. The husband was good though. So, and that was an interesting, I saw some horrific things.
When you say that my husband was good, what do you mean?
Oh, he was darling. He was just a beautiful man. He wasn't much good with babies. It was only him and his sister were the only 2 children in his family. And I remember when we went up to, his family came from Brisbane. That's why we ended up in Brisbane. And we used to live in Parkes and Goulburn. And we came up to visit the family, and his sister had a baby, and she asked him if he'd like to have a nurse, and he just sort of shook and he held the baby, but you can see he was so awkward. He had no idea how to hold a baby, so very quickly gave the baby back to his sister. And then, but when I had my children, he was beautiful, but don't ask him to change a nappy. He would be dry reaching from here to kingdom come, right. Or even if any of them were sick. But he was just fantastic. I would do all the things for the babies, and he would go, he'd do the washing, hang out the washing and do the washing up, and and as the kids got a bit older, like when they were about 2 or thereabouts, he just took over. He was fantastic. He was a really great dad. He had to be, there were 4 of them.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
so the time you had when you were younger, do you think that put you in the right stead to do the nursing, even though it was a bit of struggle street? It seems to me that you did the hard, heavy nursing at first, and then midwifery and psychiatric nursing isn't as heavy, I'm guessing.
No, it wasn't quite as heavy, but psychologically it was quite demanding. The psychiatric nursing, it was huge, very, very interesting, but I did see some horrible, horrible things happen. Looking after there was one lady in, I remember one time, it was a Gladesville hospital, which now is closed, as most of or practically all the psychiatric hospitals. But I remember walking into a bathroom this day, and this woman was a prostitute, and she had gonorrhea, and but she also had a daughter, and I just walked in there, and these nurses were just tormenting the daylights out of her, saying the most horrible things, throwing water over, and it was just awful. And the things that happened sometimes in psychiatric hospitals were awful. Sometimes the staff were awful, but by the same token, sometimes you had to be so very, very careful, because there were some very dangerous people in the wards. And I remember once getting a whack over over my back with a chop like this. It just knocked the wind out of me totally. This dear old lady wanted her tablets, and so what
wanted her tablets, right? Okay.
And why she wanted it is because what we used to do, we used to crush the tablets on a spoon and mix it up with jam, and of course that was a bit of a treat because it's something sweet.
Yep.
And she was just impatient, wanted it, and of course the first reaction when that happens is you just sort of turn around and think, and then you think, no, I can't do anything, poor darling. So I quickly gave her the tablets and
without the jam, I hope.
No. Oh, God, no. She would have hurt me even more if she didn't have a jam. Dear old soul. But you asked me my childhood, what impacted that did. You know what? Mum and Dad were the most caring, socially responsible people you'd ever wish to come across. I went back to the hospital at Canandra many years later. There's still a beautiful big picture of my father on the wall. He was the chairman of the board of directors on the hospital board for many, many years. Every Christmas they'd stop in at the hospital, they'd go around, give presents to all the patients at the hospital. Mum was on the committee for the Catholic ball there, so quite a few years. And so yes, but Dad was on so many committees. He'd come home and I'd think to myself, what committee is he on tonight? Are you off to his meeting again?
With something else.
Yeah, but he was just one of these really, really good blokes. Worked very, very hard on the farm because we had a number of properties. We had the main one, which was Glenroe, and then we had Medlow. Well, it wasn't a number, and then he bought Pine Grove, which was another farm closer to home. And and he's also on the fire brigade, captain of the fire brigade. So every little thing along the way, he was there. And he was just into everything, just very responsible. Remember one time going to he taught us how to drive on the truck on the old Austin. Driving home this day, and the other kids were in the truck with us as well. And I don't know who was with us that day. Must have been some of the boys. But Dad said, "Maureen, stop the truck." And I thought, "Dad, I don't want to stop the truck. I want to keep driving." So anyway, that was okay. So we kept. I kept going really slow, and he said, "Maureen, stop the truck." And I just thought, "I'll do it really slow because I just wanted to keep going." And in the end, he said, "For God's sake, Maureen, stop the bloody truck." And I thought, "Stop the truck," and got out really quickly. And anyway, he jumped around. And I said to my brother, I said, "What's going on? What's wrong with Dad?" I said, "Look up ahead, Maureen." Big smoke cloud coming up on the horizon. So I had to get out of the truck real quick and get him. But that was him. He wasn't a cranky man, but don't push him too hard, otherwise he does sort of, But he was a good bloke. So, so as to your question, did it have an impact on my life and wanting to be socially, out there helping people? Yes, I did.
Yeah.
It was good.
Have you spent your entire life being out there helping people?
Yeah, I suppose. Look at it like that. Yeah, I have. Because when I finished my nursing training, I got married, then psych nursing, and then I went up to New Guinea and...
New Guinea?
Yeah, we're up in New Guinea for quite a few years.
You took a whole family of people up to New Guinea?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't. My husband got a job up there.
Okay.
So, his role was the driving factor in whatever we did, because basically he was the breadwinner, I guess. But I always got a job wherever he went. So, for example, we got up to New Guinea. I started off. I'm not the sort of person who can sit down and socialise all day. I don't mind socialising, but I like to be busy. And when we first went up to New Guinea in Goroka in the Highlands, and he was the manager of, I don't know if you probably don't know, but steamships was the he was in retail, so we went up there in retail, and as a merchandise manager. And then we moved for 2 years, we were in Goroka, that's up the Highlands, and then after that we moved down to Leh. He took over as the manager there of Namasu, which is a national company, and they're into lots of different things. They're into coffee, they're into retail, and he was in charge of the retail.
But you started off up in the Highlands. How old were your kids?
I had 2 children at that stage. So both, Nicole was only about 18 months old, and Simone would have been probably about 3. And then the third one was born in Goroka.
Okay.
So that was a bit of a challenge too, trying to get her naturalised in Australia with independence. And then when we came back, Justin was born in down here in Sydney, I should say.
Yeah.
But so then I was when I went up there the first time, I got a job up there at the hospital in Goroka. Worked up there in the there was a private section. Well, private was the European section, and then I worked in the blood bank for a while, and then in the maternity section up there.
Okay.
That was interesting. I'd write a book just about that experience. In the
I'm starting to think that there's a book in you. There's no doubt about that. On the banner, you graciously held me to lunch today, and there in your lounge room is your banner for your business.
Well, that's
and it says
reception.
writer and speaker.
Yes.
Writer as in a blog writer, as a book writer?
I'll say the word, I'm a diamond author with Ezine articles. So I've written quite a few books. I actually used to write for the local papers, just once a month or once a fortnight for Bayside Star and the Westerner. The Westerner's closed, and the Bayside Star I've pulled out of that about 6 months ago.
Okay. And what type of writing were you doing?
Oh, mainly informative writing, educational.
Okay.
But I've also written manuals. I also had a computer training centre in a previous occupation.
Okay.
And teaching people how to use application software. And when we came back from New Guinea, I actually worked with, because I'd worked with I worked up there with Coopers and Lybrand for a while, helping people how to learn computers, also as a software support manager.
Yeah.
And then when I came back, I decided I want to continue teaching people. So I applied to Drake Training, and they said yes.
To which training?
Drake Training.
Yep.
There's also Drake Personnel, but this was Drake Training in Brisbane. So anyway, I was a contractor there for quite a few years, and started writing manuals for them.
Okay.
So this was back in the days before Windows was the big new software, and they needed a Windows manual so they could teach that. So I wrote that manual, and then after that we needed one for Word for Windows, because before that was Multimate, a few other programs. So I wrote the manuals for that, and
so you write textbooks basically, and you write informal writing for the local newspapers.
Yeah, and also for the websites, things like that.
Yeah. Do you write about your own business? Do you do copywriting and that type of thing?
Yeah, relating to my business, I do. Yes, right. I do, and. I guess the thing is, I get so many tips and ideas coming from clients, about what they've done and what they've tried to do with their look, every time I see a new client, I love it, because I'm learning all the time, finding out about them, and not for any bad reason, but just because to be able to help them anyway, I need to know as much as I can about them, so that I can tailor my sessions to meet their needs.
Yes.
But also, I'm just learning so much all the time. It's amazing. It's absolutely brilliant.
So it's a big part of what you
absolutely
live for, I guess. Is that the right word?
Yep.
This learning.
Yeah. It's like, for example, I'll be talking to someone, for example, with emotional problems. I get them to fill out a form, and it's only 3 questions. What are you moving away from? What are you moving towards? And what are the things, the 10 to 12 key points that have caused you angst in your life.
Yep.
And they'll fill that out. And in the first session, I don't do too much questioning, because I just want to just do that first session. In the second session, I just sit there and listen to them and ask them questions, because quite often I find out more about what's going on for them. And they say, oh yeah, I forgot about that. So that I can incorporate in a session, in that second session, which makes it so much more worthwhile. That's good.
So, the transition, I guess, is there a transition, or do you feel that you're pretty much following the same path, just from different angles, whether it be the nurse, the teacher, the healer? Do you classify yourself as a healer?
I suppose you would. Well, ask my clients. I think they'd be very willing to say. Like as I said to you before, that young fellow who was in there yesterday, total change, turnaround for the family. And it's, I had another young fellow come in once, and he was probably about mid-30s. He had a disability too, but he had a problem. No, she was hurt. A lot of people who've gone through disabled, I don't think we can totally understand how the hurts that impacts on their lives. Do you know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
They get teased at school. Sometimes, I'm not saying this happens with everyone, but it does happen. But then also,
I think it happens with everyone. We've both had first-hand knowledge of it. Mine being from the wrong side.
Yep.
And someone who has a disability does get bullied and teased at school. There's no doubt about that.
But it's the degree. But then, like with some children, like for example, a person who's been born into a family and they've got a disability, how do both the parents react? Sometimes a parent can actually, without deliberately doing it, the child feels they're not wanted, they're not loved, and that hurts that child. I remember when I was a manager of the computer training centre with Drake Training, I remember saying to the staff there, whatever you do, if you don't like, if there's a person in your class that you find that is really annoying, because you will find there's going to be one, there's pretty much one in every class, for goodness sake, don't discuss it at your lunch break, Because even though you'll go back to the room and you'll still be hacked the same way, no matter what you understand, I don't know why it happens, but it actually does flow through to the person, and they will know it.
They will know it.
And it's the same with, as I was saying, with children when they're born. If there's a period of family, whether it be a parent or a sister or a brother or something having resentment towards that child feels it, even though sometimes they can't even express what they're feeling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yes, that's where it can be a bit of a challenge.
Cool.
Yeah.
And okay, your latest business, hypnosis, hypnotherapy.
Yep.
How long have you been playing that game?
2010 I started.
Right.
And so I've seen quite a few people. Quit Smoking was the biggest one. And that was what I did basically for the first year or year and a half before I started doing the weight loss. Because when people were coming to see me for the quit smoking, a lot of people were overweight or, you know, and I thought, no, I've really got to go and see if I can do that. They'd ask me if I could help them with their weight, and I'd say, oh, I'm not really doing that at the moment. And then I thought, nah, someone, you know, how the universe provides, you know. You know, I heard about this lady down in, I don't think she was in Adelaide or Melbourne or somewhere anyway. I flew down there and did a course down there and then brought that training back up to my practice. And I just love doing the weight loss. It's beautiful. I love doing everything I do, but, you know, it's just a really nice, gentle, because with the weight loss, the most important thing is to get rid of those bad foods. They're cooked to, whether it be chips, chocolates, things like that. So using NLP, I get rid of those in that first session. And then do the hypnosis, and you know, very rarely do I have to you know, do it again. I remember one chap came in one day, he was a state manager for a big organisation up here in Brisbane, and he came in and he said, look, practically every day he's going out to some sort of an event where there's food around, you know, and he could feel his belt getting tighter and the tummy coming over, and he said, I've just got to stop, I've got to do something. And he came back to the second session 2 weeks later. He hadn't touched any of the food. He said, you're not going to believe it, Maureen. He said, one night I got home from a function, and he said, I don't know what drove me, but he said, I went to the fridge and started eating Nutella. I said, well, that's it. We need to get rid of that. So we got rid of that. And he went back and he never touched any of those foods again. And as far as I know, he's doing really, really well. So, but I had one lady come in for the weight loss, and she was a social drinker, and she was drinking, I think I got rid of 6 different types of alcohol that day for her.
Right.
Anyway, about 2 months later, she rang me up and she said, well, I don't have to come back and see you again. And I said, yeah, that's okay. What's going on? And she said, oh, you're not going to believe it. I went to Melbourne for a couple of weeks, and she said, oh, that champagne, it's so nice. So anyway, I came back and using NLP got rid of the champagne as well, and she went off happy person.
Is there anything you've learned from your NLP, from your hypnosis, that you wish you could have taken or had before with the other things you've done?
Do you know what, Stephen? As you know, my husband died at 47 from smoking.
Yeah.
And if only I had the tools that I have now back then. I mean, I nursed him for 11 months in the hope that somebody would find a miracle cure to help him to stay alive. Yeah. Never happened, of course. And when I knew it was his last, you know, we got to the tail end of it, I'm thinking to myself, I can't believe that this is not happening, that something hasn't happened to fix this. But anyway, you know, he did go to the SDA hospital and did this course there, and they told him to drink lots of fruit juice. And as he's giving up the smoking, well, we all know the cigarettes contain sugar, so they're on the right track, but you've got to change what's in the unconscious mind, you know? Yeah. And that didn't happen. And then he went to an acupuncturist, and so he ended up with a wire in his ear, and every time he had a thought of a cigarette, he had to squeeze that wire. Right. And they were driving along, and I said to him, darling, you've got a cigarette in your hand. And he said, yeah, why? And I said, what about the thing in the area? And he said, darling, when I want a flaming cigarette, I'll have a blinking cigarette. So that was a bit of a no-no. Yeah. But, you know, with hypnosis, and if you really wanted to quit, you've got to really want to quit, though, to be able to make it work. I know that we would have been able to help him. And not only that, Stephen, there are so many natural cures for cancer these days. People don't have to die from cancer, but they do.
But they do.
They do.
Yeah.
So, I've got a dear friend. Well, he's not a dear friend. He's a chap I know in Orange in New South Wales who's fought the good fight. But because of all the horrible treatments he's been on, it's basically killed him. So he's on his tail end now. It's from throat cancer, which is pretty horrific. So yes, but I just wish I'd known a lot of information I have now. But you can't look back. You just got to look forward and just help those people. You know, the person comes in to quit smoking, and that was my first thought when I learned how to do the quit smoking was that, oh my gosh, if only I can give people back their loved one, even if it's only for a few years, you know, it would be so good. You know, oftentimes I go out and I do talks at medical practices and leave my brochures with the receptionist there, especially mainly on the north side of Brisbane. And I remember walking in one day and I have a uniform with my name on it, and she said, oh, Maureen, she said, I'm so pleased to meet you. And I said, really? And she said, yeah. She said, Joe died. And I said, oh, really? Mate, I see a lot of people, so I wouldn't have had a clue who she was talking about. And I said, what happened? And she said, well, he came and saw you, and he was a non-smoker, but it was too late. You know, he already had cancer, and that was just so heartbreaking. But he always talked about you and how you'd helped him to get off the cigarettes in the first place, you know. And so that's one of the things that I love about doing what I'm doing, is just giving people back their loved ones, and also you know, helping people to stay the path, and I guess the emotional side of things is also an area that I love doing, you know.
And you say you shouldn't look back, you should always look forward. So what's forward for Maureen Hamilton?
Just keep learning, and being better than what I am. You know, keep improving on my knowledge and skills.
How do you know that you're getting better than what you are?
Oh, absolutely. You know, like, you know, we've got a fabulous group of people around us, you know, like the Riches Trauma Process, for example. You know, there's a wonderful bunch of people that in our team. A lot of them are psychologists, psychiatrists, you know, nurses, hypnotherapists, and we all help one another. We all help one another. So we've got a close group. There's no discussion of names, but if we have a question or a problem we think that's a bit difficult, then what we do is we go in there, we put the information onto that, I put it up on that Facebook group, and then someone will pop in and give you some ideas and clues. Judith will come on, and it's absolutely huge.
Cool.
But I guess the other thing I wanted to, that I'm looking at doing at the present moment, look, I can help people, but if they're already sick, I was talking to you before at lunch about the oxidative stress.
Yes.
I mean, we've all got it. What does oxidative stress lead to? Well, it leads to inflammation, and then of course dis-ease in our body, uneasiness in our body. And so if we can help people with that, that's the next stage of my journey, is being able to offer more. So it's like the fourth panel in my circle. So for example, I've got the quit smoking, I've got the weight loss, the emotional sides, and now it's looking at helping people to be healthy or get healthier.
Okay.
And as I said to you before, the one that I'm really emphasising on is the one that's actually reducing that oxidative stress and the free radicals that are in our bodies. You know, we take vitamins, minerals, all these sorts of things to try and reduce our oxidative stress, but it's not really doing a huge amount. We eat the right fruits, we eat the right vegetables. To a certain extent it does reduce it. But the most important thing is there's been this development over in America where this scientist has developed this one where it's got 4 different herbs into this one product that actually does reduce the oxidative stress. In fact, there was an ABC reporter who went in, and he's the fellow who always goes and investigates any new product that comes out to see if it's realistic or not, and quite often he just poo-poos it. he went in and he had to have a blood test to find out, to work out his level of oxidative stress.
Yeah.
And it showed, like everybody else, was way up. And he had to go back later and have another 2 or 4 weeks or something to have another blood test, and it was way down.
Okay.
Totally reduced.
So that's your next...
That's my next focus. Well, as part of the whole, you know, it's helping people to move along and doing this and getting a healthy. In fact, I've even got my poor little dog on at the moment because he's got Cushing's disease, and but he's made improvements already, which I'm very grateful for. Had a lady come in and she's already started it, and her ankles were so swollen because she's under a lot of stress with her work, and she's overweight, so she's doing the weight loss. And within a matter of weeks, well, probably within the first week, she said, I don't know what's going on, but she said, my ankles, she said, the only thing I've done is start those tablets. And within 3 weeks, they're pretty much all gone now. The swelling's all gone. So once you address that stress, that oxidative stress, then, and the oxidative stress comes from everywhere. You know, you walk outside into the environment, you take everywhere we breathe, the fuels, even in our computers, what we're getting from them. And the food we eat, whether it be good, bad or indifferent, even our breathing. So for example, you take a deep breath in, you're breathing in oxygen, you're breathing out carbon dioxide, but there's some of that left in there. So when it's left in there, then that turns into free radicals, which then attacks the cells. It's like that's why we get old. That's why we age. It's a cycle, absolutely.
Okay, so look, my job when doing this little show is to try and work out what it is that's inside the person beside me that's just that little bit different.
Have you worked that out?
Oh, look, I think there's a lot. I think that's, you know, the lifelong learning thing. I very proudly tell people that I believe I'm a lifelong learner. I haven't asked you your age, but you're at an age where many people would be saying, oh, there's nothing more I can learn and I'm just ready to give up and that's it, you know, because and you're wanting to learn more and more every day, and that's just fabulous. That's I think the big thing that's come of our chat today is if you want to keep learning and you continue to learn, it's just going to be, you know,
that's right,
just going to be the perfect thing. I hope that I just caught your vehicle in the side in one of the cameras, because you're pretty well noticeable, isn't it?
Can't miss it.
And there we are. And we are
Thank
here.
you very much.
You're very welcome. But before we go anywhere, would you like to tell those 3 people that are listening where to find you?
Oh, sure.
And, you know, do your sales, your elevator pitch and all that sort of thing.
Thank you. Right. My practice is at 91 Kaima Crescent, Bald Hills. My website is masteryourlifepower.com. However, I have a number of websites.
Oh, okay.
I've got started off with Life Coach to Quit Smoking and .com, and then the weight got introduced. That was Life Coach to Lose Weight. That's another one. And then I set up Join a Health Centre. So that's another one. Right. So there's 4 of them. Okay.
So there's all of those, and if they want to come and see you, the best way to contact you?
Yeah, look, the best way probably is the phone number, which is being answered 24/7. That's 1300 619 684.
Okay.
And but we've got a fully automated system. People can book online. We do like to have a talk to people before they come in. I also offer a half-hour complimentary consultation so that people get a chance to have a talk to me and find out a little bit more about what I do and what I can do to help them. And especially when it comes to the weight loss and the emotional problems. The quit smoking is pretty standard, stock standard. It's pretty straightforward. Yep. But people are given homework to do with everything I do, because preparation is key with absolutely everything. Because you can't just jump in and people have told me they've been to hypnotherapists before where they've just walked in, said a few words, and then walked out again and started smoking again. Yeah. That's not the way hypnosis needs to be done. And also inside every session I do has got NLP as well.
Perfect. Okay, well, that's fabulous. Thank you very much again for joining me today. I've had a great time. There we go. Bye.
See ya.
Okay.